Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show is streaming to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the Zoom today, Piatt County Sheriff Mark Vogelzang. Sheriff, how are you, sir?
Morning, Seth. Doing good. Yourself?
Doing good. Thanks for asking. Thanks for making time for us, as always. Good to have you on the program here this morning. And as we chat for today, let's dive into, I know that recently a big conference out of Springfield took place. Tell me about what was going on there.
Seth, I'm sorry. I've got the feedback from the...
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's going on there today, Sheriff. Let me see if, I tell you what, I don't know what's going on there. Let me... A big conference out of Springfield took place. Tell me about what. Yeah, we're having some issues on the tech side with the sheriff. Hey, Sheriff, can I call you back? Can we call on the phone?
Absolutely.
Yep. Let me shoot you my number real fast. We'll get the sheriff on the phone here for this morning. Piatt County Sheriff Mark Vogelzang on the Zoom with us today. We'll take a break and try to get things patched up here with Piatt County Sheriff Mark Vogelzang on the morning show.
Now,
Seth?
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Monday. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network, a steady start with corn, beans, and Chicago wheat. May corn opening 485 3/4, up 3.5. July corn up 3.5, 493 3/4. New crop December up 0.5 penny, 466 1/2. May beans starting today 1037 1/4, up 3/4. July beans up 0.5 penny, 1048 1/4. And new crop November 1031 3/4, down 3/4. May Chicago wheat opening 550 1/2, up 1 3/4. July wheat up 2, 564 1/2. September wheat 579, up 2 1/2. May bean meal 296.30, up 70 cents. May bean oil 47.62, down 25 cents. Looking at the opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Monday morning. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
Thank you for listening to this Miller Media Group radio station. We appreciate you making the choice to tune in to us. We want to remind you of some things to keep the attorneys happy. Our stations allow one winner per household in a 30-day period. Cash prizes are mailed to our winners within 30 days of winning. And as you've probably already guessed, portions of today's programming on this Miller Media Group radio station were pre-recorded and are mechanically or digitally reproduced. There. Now we've made the attorneys happy. Thanks again for listening to this Miller Media Group station.
If you've got allergies this season, we have relief. CEO Paul Skowron here from Warner Hospital and Health Services in Clinton. Come to our walk-in clinic inside our family medicine. No appointment? No problem. See our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Hi, this is Dr. Sue Stir from Covenant Animal Clinic. We are very happy to be the proud sponsor of a new Adopt a Pet page on DeWittDailyNews.com. Just click on the icon next to the masthead to get to the new Adopt a Pet page. Then you will be able to see some of the adorable dogs and cats at the DeWitt County Animal Shelter that are waiting for their forever home. You can also click on the link from the page to fill out the animal adoption application form. Thank you for helping us spread the word about our four-legged friends at the DeWitt County Animal Shelter who are ready to be adopted. And remember, a healthy pet is a happy pet.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. Piatt County Sheriff Mark Vogelzang on the phone with us today. Sheriff, is this better for you?
Much better, Seth.
Sorry,
much
Sheriff.
Better.
My apologies for that.
First day at the job. You rolled right with it.
Well, I appreciate that. I apologize to kind of put you and the listeners through the ringer there for just a minute, but we appreciate you hanging with us. And all right, Sheriff. So my original question before we had to deal with those tech issues. Recently, I know you and many of your law enforcement brethren gathered in Springfield. What was going on in Springfield, Sheriff?
Yeah, March 30, we had the ILEAS conference in Springfield, which is a big training for law enforcement throughout the state. They had some really good training topics, some of which were missing persons, had a great presentation from a lady up north. Just different tips on how to handle missing persons in a search and rescue type incident, as well as a debrief of the anhydrous incident down in Teotopolis. So some really good classes and good networking.
Yeah, for sure. That networking piece there, Sheriff. What's that networking do for you? Whether it's your staff, your department, what does it do for you all?
Oh, it's huge. It's just one example. I was talking with another deputy from Macon County, and as we sat there talking about searching for missing persons, he had mentioned a grant that they recently applied for and got funding for a drone with thermal capabilities. So if you have somebody with dementia walk into a cornfield or something like that, it gives you another tool, a resource to find that person. So coming back to work that next week, I immediately sat down and applied for that same grant. So it's in the hopper right now. Hopefully we'll have a new drone here in the next couple months if we have a missing person that we need to search for.
Very good. So, yeah, good piece of equipment there. And Sheriff, I know that recently, you were telling me before we got started, boy, I cannot believe this, that there have been numerous fatalities in Piatt County on the roadways there. First of all, what has been going on? And let's dive into just maybe some things we can talk about for, awareness and driving safety and those sorts of things. But like I said, first, what's been going on in your county?
Yeah, I think it's multiple issues going on, but thankfully we have the help of the Illinois State Police. So when we have these, obviously there's a lot of investigative work that goes into them. So they've been very, very helpful to us. They've got a crew that comes out and investigates these fatal accidents, and they use their drone, their accident reconstructionists. So it's helpful. We're waiting for some of these results to come back in, but I think it's a combination of speed, distracted driving, some impairment issues that are going on by the driver of these vehicles. It leads to catastrophic results for a lot of people, just not the fatalities in there, but their friends and family are all affected by these accidents.
Yeah, right. And it's got to be alarming to have so many in such a short amount of time,
Yes. Yep. And like I said, some of it is, the distracted driving or impairment, but we had a motorcycle rear-end another motorcycle. We had out in the middle of the country where two vehicles just happened to meet at the intersection at the right or wrong time, causing one to T-bone another and roll over, and that resulted in a fatality as well. So, some pretty serious accidents. Farmers are out right now planting, in another 4 to 8 weeks, you got the corn crops that'll start to grow and decrease visibility as well in these rural areas. So
yeah, true.
Slowing down and really having, doing that extra caution at these intersections may save a life.
Do you mind if I ask, Sheriff, is it alcohol impairment? Is it another form of impairment?
I think there's some drugs involved in a couple of these potentially. Yep, it definitely plays a role in some of them.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive into some of the things that folks can do to be proactive. I guess first of which is probably slow down and put the phone down. Is I venture a guess recommendation number one, or am I wrong, Sheriff?
No, absolutely. Slowing your speed and really paying attention as you're driving. It may be one of those that you have the right of way at some of these intersections, especially in the rural areas. Maybe you don't have that yield sign or that stop sign, but I would strongly suggest slowing down and really giving an extra look both directions to make sure that the oncoming traffic or the traffic coming from the sides of you are going to slow down and stop and allow you to proceed through.
Sure. Well, and of course, we talked about the impairment piece just a minute ago. First of all, let's speak to that side of it, Sheriff. Obviously we don't want to be drinking and driving or driving impaired. Seems like a simple message, but how about it?
Absolutely. It's for years now we've been trying to drive that point home, but people still do it, and unfortunately, it's led to some fatal accidents and affected a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I am curious, that messaging has been going on for many years, obviously the drinking and driving thing, but it's, it takes on a new dynamic now in Illinois where recreational marijuana is legal, and we see, substance abuse up in a lot of, other forms. How about just that challenge in general, Sheriff?
Absolutely. And just, obviously it affects people differently, but, how long does it stay in your system and how long is that impairment going to last for you before you start driving? So better safe than sorry, make sure you find a person to drive you. Obviously, Monticello, we don't really have the option for Uber. If you live in Champaign or some of the bigger cities, there's those options out there, but reach out to friends and family to get that ride if you don't feel safe and you do need to get somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. And with with the like I mentioned, the increase in recreational marijuana and all these other forms, like I said, of substance abuse, sometimes there can be a delayed onset. So you may be feeling fine. Oh, it's not gonna, whatever I took, I'm not feeling it. So, okay, I'm going to get in the car, and then, 20, 30 minutes later, you feel it, so I'm sure that's
Absolutely.
there's probably some of that going on in some cases.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sheriff, we speak to the impaired driving. How about distracted driving? How much of that do you encounter? Whether it's a fatality circumstance or just a general, fender bender, pulling folks over because they were on their phone driving down whatever street and they're in Piatt County. How about those things?
Absolutely. That's definitely happening as well. And, a lot of times it's hard to disregard that phone call coming in or that text message. Even reaching down to turn your radio station, things like that. All it takes is a split second when you're driving through town and the car in front of you hits their brakes because a dog runs out or a person walks out in front of them. And within a matter of a split second, now you have that accident, hopefully at lower speeds, but an accident nonetheless.
Sure. Well, Sheriff, again, speaking to rural driving, I mean, obviously we're in the time of the year where, the implements are out again. This time they're trying to get the crop in the ground. Let's speak to that rural driving piece and, watching out for those, like I said, those farmers and the equipment they're hauling around right now.
Absolutely. They're putting on a lot of different chemicals. So you've got semis that are stopped on the side of the road trying to offload their product. Some of these tractors are not moving very fast, but they have a very limited amount of distance they can get over into the ditch before they have an accident themselves. So those bigger implements need a little extra room, give them some extra space on the road, allow some extra time when you're traveling. They just are very limited in their options as well as they're moving their machinery from field to field.
Sure. Very good, Sheriff. Again, Piatt County Sheriff Mark Vogelzang on the phone with us today. Sheriff, did I miss anything in that portion of the conversation you wanted to put out there for us?
No, not in that portion. You've got it all covered.
All right, Sheriff. Well, I think you've got it all covered, my friend. But be that as it may, let's dive into, I know as we turn the calendar into May here in the next 10 days or so, there's going to be a lot of recognition of first responders. Let's highlight some of these. Telecommunicators Week, Corrections Week, Police Week. How about that?
Absolutely. In there, we did miss. We don't really have a court security week, but I obviously want to give them some credit because they do a very good job keeping our courthouse staff safe. But yeah, April 13 was that week was our telecommunicator week. Everything starts with them being able to get some good information from people calling in quite often on their worst day of their life, being able to keep them calm, getting the information needed, and getting whether it's police, fire, or EMS dispatched. Our dispatchers do a phenomenal job and really start that process as far as getting first responders going to that emergency. But then, May 4th is our corrections week. Yeah. They do a phenomenal job back in the jail. It is a tough job being locked up back there with inmates nonstop, trying to keep everything safe, but that includes the inmates as well. And then May 11th kicks off Police Week across the country.
Sure. Police Week, that's going to be a big one as well. Let's start with Corrections Week there, Sheriff. And corrections folks are often while we see the police officers, we see the deputies, we see them on the roads, we talk to the telecommunicators. We're even if it's something minor as there's a strange person, or there's a strange animal, or we're talking to that telecommunicator. I would venture a guess maybe a good portion of the public talks to that person at some point in their life. Maybe not everybody sees that corrections officer. Speak to their role. What do they do in the public safety side of things?
Well, same thing with that role. A lot of times people coming into the jail, not a good time for them. They don't want to be there. So to have that correctional officer that can remain calm, try and talk people down when they're intoxicated, drunk, fired up. There's a lot of mental health with inmates, mental health issues. So having that calm demeanor and getting the person that's being booked in to calm down, getting their fingerprints rolled, the pictures done, doing that medical intake to make sure that they're safe to be in the jail, and then getting them back to their cells. It's a lot of work, and to try and do it safely, calm, maintain your composure. They do a phenomenal job.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, is sometimes the corrections side of it kind of a launching pad for some of those folks into that law enforcement piece? Is that still the case?
It is. We've had several of our correctional officers go to patrol division. Our current jail superintendent, Zach Cooper, started in the jail, went to the road, was an investigator for a while, and then when the jail superintendent position opened up, he moved back into the jail, which is where he's currently at. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Well, and I'll tell you, for those guys or the gals, I know there's a lot of gals in the in the correction side. For those individuals that start there and they head to the street as a patrol officer, boy, I tell you what, I venture to guess those skills you talked about, calming down a person who might be, a little over the top, those mental health issues, those things that you're talking about. I venture to guess those skills they pick up on that correction side really pay off when they hit the streets.
Oh, absolutely. They get to know people. They get to build that skill set, talking to somebody when they are fired up. And then especially within the county, quite often it might be one or two deputies that are responding to a call. So your best tool is your ability to talk to somebody and try and gain their cooperation in a particular incident.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Now, I wanted to jump into the telecommunicators because, boy, Sheriff, you talk about a challenging role. That is a challenging role. How about your telecommunicators and how important they are to the process of public safety?
Absolutely. It's tough. I know talking to them when somebody calls in, and like I said, it's in their worst day, whether it's a loved one that's having a medical issue or talking to that person that's been involved in an accident and potentially a life-threatening type incident. Trying to be able to talk to them, you almost feel a little helpless in the sense that you want to be there to help them face to face, but being able to get that information that they need to get the right resources moving as fast as possible to actually give that help. It is definitely a special person to do that.
Sure. Yeah, and they're getting a lot thrown at them. They've got a lot to process, and they've got a lot to get to, not just you, but they've got a lot to get to maybe the person on the phone. There's just a lot that goes with that role. I don't think the general public often can comprehend, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, and especially our dispatch center, there's times where there may be one dispatcher in there. We really try to have at least two, but if you think about it, there's a bad accident on the interstate. Everybody that's driving by there is calling into our dispatch center, and all those calls are rolling into two dispatchers. They're trying to get the information, answering those calls, all the while trying to dispatch out police, fire, medical, and giving them updates. So it's a lot of work very, very quickly on those dispatchers.
Certainly is. Yep. And for them to process it and decipher what's what's happening. And like I said, get that information to you guys on the street. That's tough. That is tough stuff that they do for sure. And then, of course, go ahead. I'm sorry, Sheriff.
Very good at multitasking.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Sheriff. And then, of course, we've got Police Week that kind of overlaps with Telecommunicators Week a little bit. Obviously, law enforcement and what they do, really has been under fire in recent years. Perhaps that stigma, and the downgrading the importance of law enforcement is somewhat going away in our culture, but still, nonetheless, an important role. How about just Police Week and what police mean to public safety?
I think there has been that trend across the country, but in Central Illinois, we've got great communities. There's always been a lot of support for our law enforcement in this area, so especially in Piatt County. I just very happy to work here. The support that we've gotten over the years has just been incredible. But yeah, there's a big meeting in Springfield every year, and obviously you've got the big event in DC every year as well that honors the fallen officers.
Sure. Well, all that comes up in May. Going to be a busy first 2 or 3 weeks for you folks there in Piatt County and really everywhere as those recognitions come about. But hopefully folks take some time to just kind of think about some of the things we've touched on today. Sheriff, in our final minutes together, tell me about some firearms training coming up for your department.
Yes, we're very lucky. We're the recipient of an NRA grant again. So the NRA has been very generous to us and helping provide some additional ammunition. But the state mandates yearly qualifications. It's that time of the year. So we've already done rifle qualifications. We got handgun qualifications coming up here next week. Running everybody through that. That includes corrections and our court security staff as well as our patrols. So we'll be out, hopefully have some nice weather for that.
Very good. So firearms training. Now, how often do you have to do that, Sheriff?
The state mandates once a year,
Okay.
but we usually try to get out, a couple additional times a year through some open ranges and some additional training. And again, the NRA grants allowed us to do some additional training that we might not have been able to do with that extra ammunition.
Do you find it difficult to find locations to train?
We do. Right now, the Monticello range is down, but we do use another range that's within our county. But yeah, from time to time, depending on the demand at those ranges, we just have to try and schedule around those.
Gotcha. Sheriff, how do folks follow along with all things Piatt County Sheriff?
Our best spot to follow along with the Sheriff's Office would be the Facebook page.
Piatt County Sheriff Mark Vogelzang on the phone with us today. We take a look at network news coming up on the morning show.
WHOW.